On this episode of the Magic Hour podcast, Bobby Brabson comes on to talk about the rise and fall of the Philadelphia 76ers and the process, quote unquote, team and kind of how it all came together, how we go through the steps of throughout the past few years and what led to kind of the destruction of them and eventually the sweep from the Boston Celtics this season in the playoffs. A little bit of a venting session for Bobby, but it's an interesting kind of like oral history of that team. And then where do we go from here? How do they fix it if they can? And like I suggest a few trades on how they can kind of like manage the storm going forward and maybe still compete. And then my buddy, current college student, Caden Johnson comes on to talk about college life during a pandemic, the student experience, going to class, doing all virtual classes, how it kind of like ended the spring semester and transitioned into virtual learning now and all that stuff. The culture of college life, going to parties and being hesitant, going out and single life, hooking up with girls and whatnot, and how to kind of manage it. So, also, I want to apologize for the beginning of the podcast. Something happened with my recording when I was interviewing Bobby, so my audio is not as crisp as it normally is. We had to use the resort to the Zoom audio, so it's just not as good. But it's still a good interview, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So, okay, cool. So here's Bobby. Us talking about the Sixers. All right. Well, the Sixers had a very disappointing first round loss after what was, I guess, a promising offseason. So I decided to bring on the only Sixers fan I know, Bobby Brabson, the resident Magic Hour Sixers fan. It was a 4-game sweep to the Boston Celtics. I mean, there was a couple close games, but it never felt like they were really in it. I don't know, Bobby. Let's just. I don't want to like bring the downer on too much. I just want like the facts to be known by the listeners before I just like we just start talking about it. I'm not even trying to troll you. I swear. What happened, man? What happened this year and what happened this playoff run? Like, I don't know. How can you explain it if possible? Like, is it possible to explain?
There's so much to it, and I hate talking like this because I sound like a lot of Sixers fans that were just so like pro Hinkie and like everyone else sucks. But it really all goes back to when the league forced Hinkie out and forced the Colangelos in. Like, so I'm not saying that we would have won a championship or multiple times anything if he stayed on. But I think we would have been in a better spot had they not gotten rid of him. They just we can go through it all, but as far as this season goes, they just didn't have the chemistry. I mean, the league it's all wings and people shooting threes, and the Sixers literally just they signed Tobias Harris to a max deal. He's not a max player, and you sign an older Al Horford who all he does is take up space, which is all the Sixers have is people that take up space. So the spacing was going to be terrible. They sold us on, this team was built to stop the Bucks and beat the Bucks. This is the Giannis stopper, but they couldn't even get there. I mean, a lot of people projected them as like a top 2 seed in the East. It was like the Bucks and then the Sixers right behind them. But it's obvious now. They just put this team together the complete wrong way.
So what was so Hinkie wasn't the one who got caught up in the Ringer scandal of like the fucking Twitter stuff. He just stepped down, right?
Right. So basically what happened, I guess this is I guess it's a little bit of like local stuff because
It's like
people don't
nepotism,
follow
right? It
the.
was just like Jerry wanted his son in that job.
Yeah, well, so it goes back to obviously Adam Silver hated the fact that the Sixers were essentially losing on purpose. Teams do it
Yeah,
every
he's the
year,
trust the
but the
process
Sixers
guy.
were just very, yeah, the Sixers were just very blatant about it. They traded away any decent player they had and rolled out a G League lineup for three straight seasons in the hopes of but the goal of it all, and from the beginning all they ever talked about was acquiring assets via draft picks and cap space in order to go after the future stars, because you're not going to hit on every draft pick. So the more picks you have, the more chance you have to get a star.
Yeah,
So, people always talk about like, oh, well, they draft, they traded for Fultz, blah, blah, blah. They did this, they did that. But that was kind of the point. It was like, you're not going to hit on every pick. They drafted Jahlil Okafor instead of Porzingis. But you still ended
yeah.
up with Embiid and Simmons, who I still believe they can together be two top 10 players in the league. They're still young enough. Ben Simmons is like 23 and Embiid's 25. Um, but yeah, ultimately, the league just hated the fact that they were kind of abusing the system in their favor to get better draft picks, and they kind of forced Hinkie's hand to step down. They were essentially like, "We're going to demote you. You can run the analytics, but you're not going to be making personnel decisions." And he's like, no, fuck that. If I'm not running things, I'm out of here. So he stepped down, and then they kind of forced the Colangelos on us, or they forced Jerry Colangelo on us, which then brought Brian Colangelo with his giant collars and his burner accounts.
He
I'm getting,
so it the whole Hinkie situation, like, I mean, this is the reason why they changed the lottery to. So for those of you who don't know about, I don't know, what was it? Yeah, 4 years ago they changed the whole system of the lottery, where it used to be, if you had the worst record in the league, then you had the highest percentage of being the number one pick. So that means that basically in the lottery system, so the I guess you could say the balls that are rolling around in the physical, like, um system, where when they pick out the balls, there were, let's say the Kings had the worst record in the league this year, there would be more Kings balls, about 40% more Kings balls, as opposed to, like, let's say the Sixers had the second worst league, where there'd be 35% Sixers balls. So it's more likely that your team were to get the lottery pick, but it's not a for sure thing. Adam Silver did not like the blatantness, like you just said, of the Sixers, so they changed that rule. And a lot of other NBA owners were pretty upset about it too, because I think they had to have a vote in order to change that. So it's like the Sixers were very upfront about, we're tanking so that we can get the number one pick, so we can build a star team for years to come. A lot of NBA owners weren't crazy about that, so they voted on it and they changed it to where now it's the top three, or worst three teams in the league all get the same percentage, which I think is like
yeah, I
close to
forget what it
20%
is.
or
It's like,
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah. So they all have like kind of an even more even chance. Yeah. Okay, so that's right. So it was Brian Colangelo who was the one with the burner accounts, and he like said all this like shit, and then had to step down out of embarrassment or some shit like that.
correct. He steps down, and
Kid
then they
from
hire
privilege.
they hire Elton Brand, and Elton Brand, he's never been a GM before, so it's hard to fully blame him. But after they traded for, they traded away assets that Hinkie had acquired to get Jimmy Butler. They traded away additional assets that either Hinkie had acquired or had a hand in acquiring to get Tobias Harris. And then so then Jimmy Butler leaves, says, I'm not signing with you guys. So they do the sign and trade with Miami. And I think that kind of kicked off the just the horrible signings. Like, I think because the fact that Jimmy Butler left after they traded assets for him, they said, we can't let Tobias Harris also walk and leave. So they assigned him to a max deal. Like, he's a fine player. He's not a max player at all.
I mean, he's making 31 million this year, 33 the next year, 36 the following year, 38 the following year after that, 40. So he's got 180 million dollars tied up in
It's
Tobias
a
Harris.
horrible
Yeah,
contract,
it's
man.
bad. No, but
And
here's the
then
worst one. because we need to bring up. I think this is a great segue to bring up Al Horford's contract. A guy who's 34
Yes.
years old, aging out. Yeah, he had a couple good seasons with the Celtics, and then he signs a $97 million 4-year max contract. $28 million this year, 27 next year, 27 the following year, 26 in 2023. But that's not guaranteed, so there's going to be some incentives there to play well. We'll see if he goes for those or not. Anyway, keep going, Bobby.
So they didn't want to lose, they didn't want to lose out on both assets that they had to give up young players for. So they signed Tobias Harris, and then they go out and get Al Horford to tout, this new starting five that's, like I said, supposed to wreak havoc on the league and play the best defense that anyone's ever seen and give up 70 points a game. And it was pretty obvious within the first month or two of the season that just was not going to be the case.
No.
Al Horford has been nothing short of disappointment. That's being nice to Al Horford.
I mean, I heard rumors that he just isn't happy there. Like he doesn't like, I don't know, the dynamic in the locker room. He's like very annoyed
I don't blame
with
him.
Embiid, and he doesn't like the coaching style, which is gone now. But yeah, just wanted to paint a picture on some of these notes.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely been unhappiness. I mean, they had Josh Richardson, like, after the game Sunday. So this was before Brett Brown was fired, just talking about like how there's no accountability in the locker room, and the whole like guys get preferential treatment. I mean, he's obviously talking about Embiid and Simmons, and so and that that's Brett Brown was the coach, so that's on him. But to a point, you can't really fault him. He coached the Sixers through some of the worst years, and part of that, and to go from that to now, having 3 straight 50-win seasons, that's not easy to do. And so I think, part of that was him catering to the star players, kind of not being too hard on them. Because like, if you're a coach and you're being hard on your players and you guys are winning 15, 20 games a year, no one's ever going to listen to you, or they're just going to be like, well, screw this. What am I going to sit here and take this for to win 20 games?
But at the same time, how are you ever supposed to get better if you don't call out the flaws and try to improve on the flaws? Hey, Ben Simmons, guess what? You're not a good shooter. Maybe you should go work on shooting threes in the offseason. Things like that.
No, yeah, absolutely. But that's why I think it was time for Brett to go, because I don't think he would have ever changed to do that. Because he did. I mean, during the season, he did call out Ben Simmons and say, I've asked him to shoot at least 1 3 a game. And then in response to that, Ben Simmons went 3 weeks without attempting a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
Like it was almost just like he was like an entitled like toddler.
Yeah.
Just like lashing out. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, and I think the thing of it too, I think most fans were probably okay with Brett Brown leaving after last season. And I really think the only reason they didn't is because they lost in a game 7 on a buzzer beater where the ball bounced 4 times on the rim and went in. Because they did have a legitimate shot. Like, and it's just crazy to see how much they fell from last year, because I genuinely think if that ball doesn't go in and they end up beating the Raptors in that game 7, I think the Sixers had a legit shot of winning the title. If everything else kind of fell the same way, where, obviously with the Warriors having the injuries they did, the Sixers were probably the second best team that year. But that was with Jimmy Butler. That was with J.J. Redick. That was with these guys
McConnell.
Just guys like chemistry guys, and the Sixers just have nobody. If it's the fourth quarter and you need a basket, they just don't have Embiid's their guy, but a low post guy just can't be your go-to guy to get a bucket in the fourth quarter. Teams are just going to clog the paint.
Here's my problem with that though, is Embiid. So okay, I'll touch on this real quick, and we can jump into all this the basketball stuff late in a second. But then because I do want to talk about this whole Raptors beating the Raptors thing. Embiid doesn't even. Here's the thing: he doesn't play low post. That's the problem. He does it like half the game. The other half the game, he dances around like 15 feet, top of the key, kind of like just stands there and waits for other guys to move around and shuffle around his matchups. And then, they pass the ball and he takes these like mid to like deep twos. And then you're just like, what are you doing, dude? You're fucking 300 pounds of just straight muscle. 7-3. Use your body, get in there, and just fucking attack the glass, like what Shaq did, and what guys like Chuck or Charles Barkley did. They did it so well. I think that's a big part of it. Like you nailed it on the head. It's like the what's the word I'm looking for? Spoiledness. I don't know of these
They're
young
entitled.
guys. Yeah, these spoiled, entitled first round picks in Embiid and Simmons that just think that I don't know. They can play whatever game they want and it's gonna work. And it's just like, dude, like it's not fucking working, man. Like Simmons, you're so great at finding lanes and just driving the hoop, but like that's such a one-dimensional game. Like all I have to do is clog up the lanes for you, and you're not going to be able to like get that going. If you can't shoot, then there's literally like you're so easy to defend because when you can stand around 15 feet off the basket, and I'm not going to guard you because I know that that's not your game. I can just leave you alone. I could double on Embiid and then wait for you to try and go in the lane and just fucking knock you on your ass when you go up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and trust me, as a big Sixers fan that's watched pretty much every game past 3-4 years, it's so frustrating to watch because with the Embiid thing, I will go back to that for a second. You know, I will say to kind of defend Embiid, he a lot of the times, dude, he's pretty much tasked with doing almost everything on the for the Sixers.
Yeah.
So the first quarter, a lot of times he'll come out, he'll have 10, 12 points in his first like shift in the game, and that's what he's doing. He's down the low post, like just dominating, bodying guys, hitting like turnaround fadeaways. And he's like, defensive end, he's chasing down blocks, he's diving for balls, he's doing everything. He tires himself out, so that is on him. But he also like he just gets asked to be that guy, and he just gets gassed, and that's why he ends up sitting around the 3-point line, or not stepping up if someone sets a screen. If his guy sets a screen, he's not stepping up to contest a shot.
Do you think that's why he's gassed in the second half all the time?
All the time, because he does it every game, and he comes out firing like lights out. First quarters, I feel like he's got to have one of the highest like first quarter points in the league. He just comes out and dominates, but he does it from the low post, and then on the defensive end, and then by the time he's in there in the second half, he's winded, and then the fourth quarter comes and they're trying to force him the ball, and he just has no energy left.
Yeah,
like I said, that's partially on him. He's got to conserve it, but he just gets asked to do so much. But yeah, I mean it's frustrating. I mean, we can take this whichever direction you want. I have a lot to say about the Sixers.
I'm trying to look up what the Sixers got out of the 4-team Jimmy Butler trade, because if I remember correctly, it wasn't much. And you're kind of looking at that.
Well,
what?
Yeah, well, they ended up. I mean, the big piece from that they got Josh Richardson, who was their 5th starter this year. Yeah, and like he's a fine player. He just, Jimmy Butler was a better fit on the team. But I mean that also goes back to the entitled player thing, because it sounds like the more it comes out, it's like Butler and Simmons didn't get along, and Simmons would complain a lot about the things Jimmy Butler would say. And it's just like, you got to have thicker skin than that. Like here in the NBA, people are you're trying to win a championship.
And I remember like Butler got a lot of the flack for that, and I think a big reason was because he kind of like, worked his way out of Minnesota too. So everybody kind of pointed the fingers at Butler and was like, "Oh, it's definitely a him issue. It's not a Simmons issue." And then looking back, like he goes in Miami and all of his teammates love him. They have so much success. And you're just like, okay, well, something wasn't right here. I don't think it was a Butler issue so much.
Well, but I think part of that too, like, because even going back to Minnesota, like I think Karl Anthony Towns is the same kind of personality and player as Embiid and Simmons, like that entitled, like he's extremely talented, but he's just soft.
He forced Andrew Wiggins out. Like he forced all these guys out. He's putting
he wants to play with his friends.
He's putting the franchise in this really like shitty position now, where it's like if he doesn't get if they're not good in the next couple of years, he's gonna fucking force them to make him leave, and he's forcing them to make all these moves in order to get like his friends like D'Angelo Russell and stuff like that in town. Where it's just like, I don't know. I mean, there's something about the player empowerment era that I do love, but then there's things like this where it's just like, just shut the fuck up. Like, just fucking play
Yeah.
basketball and figure it out.
Yeah, you're still part of a team at
you're
the
so
end of the day. It's
sensitive.
just
Yeah, this is sports, man. This is a team sport. You have to be able to work with guys. Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about, which you touched on a little bit, so it probably would have been a better segue, but I I did want to paint a picture a little bit for our listeners. Um, okay, so let's say that Kawhi's shot doesn't go in, and they go in overtime, and the Sixers somehow beat the Raptors. Like, are we talking to him like this now? About this team? Is Brett Brown still the coach? Are we blaming him? And do they even make those moves in the offseason? Do they get Horford? Do they re-sign Harris?
I think
I
I mean
think
if
Butler's
they
gone no matter what. I think Butler is gone no matter what.
see I think because there's like it's a cliche with sports, but it's just like winning cures everything. If they win a title last year, I don't know how. I mean, if you're the Sixers, you give Butler what he wants. That was the whole reason he didn't want to stay, is because they wouldn't give him a fifth year, and then ironically they signed a 34-year-old aging
Yeah.
power forward center. But
But
no, I mean
also
I
no,
think
but also Butler won his own team, and he kind of knew like that was Embiid's team. Like it was never going to be his team, you know?
yeah. I mean it's possible he could have been like the Kawhi Leonard, like just comes in for a year, won a title, and left to go to his own team. But no, I mean yeah, if they had won a title, Brett Brown's still around. Maybe more of the some of the core guys that were on the team last year. Like I think another big piece that left that people kind of forget just because he wasn't the star was JJ Redick.
Yeah.
I mean, because him and Embiid were so well together with like the pick and rolls and the pick and pops. Like Embiid would just set screens all the time and either free JJ or JJ would hit him like running down the lane for an easy dunk.
Yeah.
And it's just that spacing with like a deadly 3-point shooter that they just don't have on the team right now. And it's just so we can get into this too, but it's just so ironic to go back and look at the team that they had for like 3 years ago before they started making all these moves. It would have been a
Dario
damn good team.
Saric, who else?
Covington.
Yeah, Robert Covington,
I mean, you
JJ
just
Redick, TJ
just that
McConnell,
lineup right
all
there.
these guys.
Yeah, you can tell me that starting five right there. You got you can still run Simmons to the point and JJ Redick, and then Robert Covington, Saric, and Embiid. I mean, when they were playing together, they were the best starting five in the league, like statistically in
Jared
the net
Bayless
rating.
too. Jared Bayless is a solid player back then.
I can't
Solid.
talk about Jared Bayless in the Sixers era.
I mean, dude. Okay,
I
so
mean,
the guy shot.
just,
The guy shot.
but a lot of that was
hold on. The guy shot 4 threes a game, made 1.5, was 37% from 3-pointer. He does the thing that you guys don't fucking do is shoot outside the fucking arc. So yeah, you can talk all you want about Jared Bayless. He does the thing that you guys need to fucking find.
Is Jared Bayless even in the NBA anymore?
No, he's not.
That kind of goes back to the overall point too, where it's like because that team, like those guys, like Dario Saric, Hinkie drafted him. He knew he was going to be a Euro guy that was going to not come over for a couple years. Came over, fit in perfectly with the team. He was by far it wasn't a star at all. He was a role player, but he did his role well. Robert Covington, undrafted, and now look at him. He's like a key 3-and-D player on the Rockets.
He's killing it on the Rockets.
And JJ Redick has been doing what he does for 15 years, going back to Duke, just making his three. He was a defensive liability, but if you surround him with Embiid, Simmons, and Covington, it doesn't matter that he can't guard anyone.
But here's the thing: Redick left on his own, though. I mean, he left in free agency.
He did.
So I don't know
well,
if he stays or not.
I don't know if the Sixers offered him a deal. I don't know if they offered him a contract.
But that's because they didn't have any cap space because they had contracts like
because of Horford.
Yeah, because of Horford and those guys. So I mean, yeah, maybe they offer him a longer contract, kind of similar to what he got with Pelicans. Yeah, I mean, dude. And here's the thing: like, it was just like I think the best way to explain it was just a lot of just doing too much. It's like, all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Especially right now in the modern era of the NBA, where it's a lot of just power duos. Like, and then a shit ton of really good role players. Like, that would have worked now. You got Embiid and you got Simmons. Let's surround these guys. What do these guys do? Well, they score in the paint. One of them's a post guy. One of them's a drive and kick guy. Cool. So let's fucking surround them with shooters. Those two types of players always play well with shooters. that's what they had, and they totally gave it up. Like I
Tore
just
down. It goes further. I mean, I keep going. They drafted
I
Landry
could keep
Shamet, who
going.
they traded away for Tobias Harris.
Oh, they
Great
had
3-point
Landry
shooter.
Shamet. Oh,
They drafted Landry Shamet. He's on the team. They drafted and traded
that's
Mikal
right.
Bridges for Zaire Smith.
That's
Mikal Bridges
right.
just was killing it on the Suns. They drafted, or I mean, they have right now Matisse Thybulle. But like
Mhm.
just that team right there, the five that we talked about: Landry Shamet, Mikal Bridges,
And look
Matisse
at
Thybulle.
Fultz now too.
That's Fultz. I don't know if Fultz would have ever survived here.
You think because the Sixers fans just would have been all over him?
No, I mean, honestly, that was the crazy part. The fans were so supportive of Fultz. It
Yeah.
was crazy. Like, you watch the videos of, like, when he got his triple double, like this first three
Mhm.
that he made. Like, the fans, we loved Fultz. Because we kind of knew, like, if he panned out even to 80% of what he was supposed to be, the
Yeah.
Sixers would have won a championship. But he just panned out to -% of what he was supposed to be with the Sixers.
He's
I mean, he's
looking
doing a
pretty
lot
good.
better
He's
now.
looking pretty good with the Magic, dude.
But I just don't know if he ever would have reached that with the Sixers.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things. He just had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
All
I
right. Well,
hope he
okay.
does well.
Yeah. Based on these other role players that you're naming, I mean, yeah, dude. Yeah, that's a really good team.
That's what I mean. And they were all there. We had all and then they traded away. They're trading away picks that we acquired. They traded away,
Yeah.
a Heat first round pick, a Thunder first round pick that we had acquired. We had all these assets still, and we had Embiid, Simmons. We had cap space. It was all there, and they just completely, as soon as Colangelo got in, and they lost to Boston that first, that was that 3 seasons ago now, in the
Yeah.
second round, they just were like, they kicked it into like panic mode, like, we
You're
need to
talking
go get as
about
many stars as possible.
against what was it, Boston a
They
couple years
played
ago?
Boston. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
2017 or 2018.
Yeah.
I think it was 2018, and
And
then
and the worst
yeah,
part about that, or the worst part about like pressing a little bit farther down on the gas, which is what it felt like they did after that series. You're like everybody kind of looked at the series. No one was like really upset. You kind of looked at it like, oh my god, we have a bright future. This team wasn't even supposed to even make it to the semifinals, and we just like really showed
mhm.
up against like. I mean, we played a really good series. We didn't play so good the second round, but the Celtics were really good that year. So I'm not gonna hold against them too much. And then you're
Yeah,
like, okay, cool,
yeah.
a couple more little pieces, and we could be like a real like effort. And then like maybe a little bit more development of Simmons and Embiid, and like we can really make a run. And then the Jimmy
They
Butler shit
pan,
happens.
and
Yeah,
yeah, instead of letting it pan out, they panic. Trade assets for Butler. Trade assets for Tobias. Butler leaves. They panic again. Give Tobias the max. Give Al Horford the max. And now here we are.
yeah.
And
Son
now
of a
they're just
gun.
kind of. It almost feels like they've. I mean, it basically like the process is over. It's dead. In my eyes,
The
that died
process was
when
over
Hinkie left.
when. Oh, really? I would say that the process was over. I wouldn't say it was over when the Butler trade happened because I feel like that was a step in the right direction. But I feel like the second you traded the farm for Tobias Harris, especially Tobias Harris of all guys, that was the
Mm-hmm.
panic mode. Like they hit the panic
Yep.
mode with Butler, and then there was like the extra panic mode because they gave up more than they really should have for Tobias Harris.
They
This
have
is
a
Tobias
ton of
Harris we're
assets
talking
for
about. This is
for
Tobias Harris
Tobias
we're talking about.
Harris.
Yeah. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
when that happened, that was like, okay, cool. The process is over. This is the win now mode. You know.
This is like stage 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's definitely poor management. They could have been good over the next 5 more years, probably, had they
Yeah.
managed this
Because the thing
correctly.
too,
And
it's like Embiid's a big man. He's gonna break down.
mhm.
So, and that I mean, I guess that kind of like leads us into like the where do they go next, or
Yeah.
like
So
what's
is
the
this team worth salvaging as is?
honestly, if I'm running the team and like it kills me. I tear it down to Embiid, Simmons, Tybal, and start over.
As a fan, what do you want to see next year, though? Do you want to see
Al
them tear down,
Horford
or do
wearing
you,
any other jersey in the NBA
so you
besides the
do,
76ers
so
jersey.
you do want to see them tear down?
Yeah, I mean, because they were supposed to have gotten even better from last year, where they took the eventual champions to a buzzer beater. By
Yeah,
at that time, Kawhi Leonard was the best player in the NBA during the playoffs last year, and that it took a buzzer beater that hit the rim 4 times to take the Sixers out, and then they go from
that
that.
was such a good game. That's like one of the best games I've ever watched in my life.
It was, and then it was turned into the worst game I've ever watched in my life. But they go from that to being swept by the Celtics, and really like they were not. They were in the games, but in the back of my head, I just knew I knew they were out of it. It was just they just didn't have it, especially after I think it was game 3. They were up by 2 with like a minute and a half left. They lost by like 8. And I'm just like, this team's getting swept. There's just they just don't have heart. And I mean, I don't even know, Simmons was hurt. I don't know that would have helped a whole lot. I just don't think, they just weren't there. I mean, and so, like I said, to go from like being that close to going to the conference finals to getting swept out of the first round,
Yeah.
I'm for tearing it down.
Here's the thing, though, dude. Like we kind of talked about and alluded to at the beginning of this like session. Horford and Harris are kind of untradeable, just because their contracts are so big and their production is so small. You'd have to really find like a desperate team who wants to either win now or a desperate like market who needs a star, to get someone to get that. So you, as a fan, you got to be open to the idea of either Embiid or Simmons going.
Yeah, I mean, so to get out of either of those contracts, like to get out of both is not going to happen.
You
but
might be able to get out of Harris. You might be able to find a suitor for Tobias Harris, but you'd have to give up a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
I mean, that's why I think you have to give it. They don't have a lot of young talent. They traded it all for Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler. So they're young talent right now. They have their own first round picks, and they have Matisse Thybulle and Shake Milton.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much their young talent. And then, so, yeah, I mean, and that's probably what it would take to get out of one of the either Horford or I mean, Horford, it would take the greatest offer in the world to get someone to take that contract. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so hard, man. I'm so attached to Embiid and Simmons. Like Embiid's just like he just like he literally is Philly. Like he's just like totally embraced the city, and he just like you can tell he cares. Simmons, you don't know as much. I mean, he's the like star out there, like dating the Kardashians and doing all that. And so with him, I could definitely see him ending up somewhere else. I wouldn't want to trade him personally, but I'll listen to any potential trades that you might have.
Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6.
Oh boy.
I think 3 of them are pretty good. 3 of them are like a stretch. They almost all involve either Embiid or Simmons, mostly Embiid because I feel like he's more tradable. He has a higher trade value than Simmons because you can build your team around him, or you can plug him in and he can be just like the star or a really complimentary player to someone that they already have. I mean, I saw it as like a wash for Tobias and for Horford. I really don't see anybody like if Elton Brand were to call me on the phone and be like, "Hey, Tobias Harris is on the block," I would just hang up. I wouldn't even hear the offer. It's just like I already know, like they would because I already know how they would come back. They would be like, let's say if I'm the Warriors, yeah, Tobias Harris is on the block. We would like Draymond Green and your second overall pick this season, and we want your second pick next year, your Minnesota pick. And why don't you throw in Jordan Poole? And I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. What? Like, you want my farm for your third best player? You're out of your mind. So, you ready for these?
Maybe.
Do you want my least likely one first, or what I think is the best offer?
Yeah, we'll go least likely to most likely.
Okay, so my first one is from the Spurs. So the Sixers would trade Joel Embiid and Josh Richardson, and the Spurs would trade LaMarcus Aldridge, Lonnie Walker, and Patty Mills. So we also have to remember, I'm not thinking this is how I always work, and a lot of people forget this because I listen to a lot of Bill Simmons, so I'm always like keeping in mind the accounting and the business end of it. In terms of swapping salary, this aligns very well. That's the reason why I went for these specific players. And they address your major need, which is guards who can shoot and who can move. Um, and then also it addresses your um, payroll needs because Aldridge, his contract is up in 2 years. So then you shed that salary. So it's almost like an expiring contract. So you can kind of restart after there. So there's that.
I'm glad you said that one first as least likely because I just think that that doesn't make the Sixers better. I don't think. I mean, because you add LaMarcus Aldridge now with Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Al Horford, because you're assuming they're all still in the team. That's just another guy that's going to clog up space, and even if Horford's coming off the bench, I don't know. I would want to look. Lonnie Walker's. I do like Lonnie Walker. And Patty Mills is fine. Is a veteran. I think he's a veteran, right? He's an older guy.
Yeah.
But Lonnie Walker would be. I did like Lonnie Walker coming out. But I don't.
I
don't
wanted
know.
to throw Derek White in there, but I don't think that Pop would give up Derek White. He really likes Derek White. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Aldridge, and I don't know. It just doesn't. I'm looking at it also as a fan. You know
That's
what I mean?
also
And
for the
Aldridge just
expiring.
doesn't.
Again, that's also for the expiring. You won't have to deal with salary in a couple years, and then you can kind of move off of that and try and sign someone else. But yeah, I get it. Again,
Yeah.
this is 6 on the trade power rankings.
I'll give it 2 hinkies out of 10.
All right, so this is my next one. This is a really easy one. With the Wizards for Bradley Beal, Embiid for Bradley Beal straight up.
I'm sorry, you totally cut out. I missed the whole trade.
So this is to the Wizards. You hear me now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Joel Embiid for Bradley Beal straight up.
Done.
Yeah?
I would do that. I think Bradley Beal would fit perfectly on the Sixers team.
Yeah.
It would, again, anything that's given up Embiid would suck, but to get a player, I think.
But then you don't have to. You're not working too much with. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say this real quick. Then you're not having to have the issues of finding ways to play Embiid and Horford at the same time. Horford can do exactly what he did with Boston, be a kind of a defensive-minded center who facilitates the offense, who's a great passer. You can move Tobias Harris to the 4 as like a small stretch 4. Josh Richardson plays the 3. Bradley Beal kind of like runs the offense as like a point guard, like a / shooting guard, and then you just put a complimentary guard around him. Maybe pick someone up in free agency or something like that who can I don't know, who just complements Beal well. Which you just got to put another guy next to him who can catch and shoot really, because he's gonna do his thing.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't hate that one. I'll give it that one 5 hinkies out of 10. That's
all right.
I like Bradley Beal. I do think he would fit because he's a guy that can go get his own shot, which literally the Sixers honestly have 0 guys that can create their own shot on this team right now, and that was just they weren't going to go anywhere with that. So I would take. I love Bradley Beal.
All right, he would thrive in Philly, I think too.
Oh yeah.
All right, next one is with the Brooklyn Nets. So it's Joel Embiid and Zaire Smith for Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, and a first-round pick in this year's draft.
Whew. So we're getting a lot, but then
you're getting a lot, but it's spread out, and all these contracts expire after the season, except for LeVert.
I know, but I'm just thinking about because if you're making that kind of move, I think you're still trying to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're giving a division rival, Joel Embiid, to go with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
I know, but here's the thing. I think that Joel Embiid is not going to get along with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, so it's going to create friction in their locker room and in the long run, making them worse because they're all going to just hate each other. These are 3 huge personalities in the same locker room that are all very sensitive and also very and also have massive egos. So I'm just saying.
That's
It's more
true. It
like
could blow. Could
we're
blow up.
throwing in the self-destruction. This is just a mind fuck right
You're
here
creating the
by the
chaos.
Sixers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hate that. I do. I like Levert. I like Jared Allen a lot too. Um, and then if it blows up, if it's an unprotected first, that could be a lottery pick. I don't hate that. I give that one 5 hinkies as well.
Yeah. So probably unlikely because I don't think the Sixers would exactly. I don't think they're going to give a division rival Embiid
Their best player to go with Kevin Durant. And
yeah. All right, so my next one is to the Bulls, which I think this one's actually pretty good, and it helps both teams out a lot. Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris for Otto Porter, which it's basically just Otto Porter's expiring contract. Zach LaVine, Wendell Carter, this year's first-round pick and next year's first-round pick. So you get a shot maker to go along with Ben Simmons. You get off Tobias Harris's atrocious contract. Unfortunately, you have to give up Embiid with it because, that's just kind of how it is. And again, this allows Horford to kind of play the center role that he played the stretch 5 with Boston. You're kind of focusing most of your offense around Ben Simmons and LaVine. And also this frees up some salary so where you can pick up some role players in free agent market. Yeah, it's definitely a homer pick because you're giving up 2 really good players.
No, but I like Wendell Carter is a good young player. I mean, Zach LaVine is another guy kind of like Bradley Beal who can get his own shot and he can score in volume.
He's only making $20 million a year for the next 3 seasons. It's a good contract.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't hate that one. I mean, you got to take on Otto Porter Jr., but that's still not. It's 2 years and it's not a terrible contract.
No, it's only 1 year.
Oh, it's only 1 year. Sorry, I'm looking at the ESPN
it,
trade machine.
It's this year technically that they're that contract on there. So it would only be for 1 year.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that one. That's again, I don't think the Bulls would do that just because you're giving up a lot of your young assets. I think the Bulls are actually. I think they're going to be a good team. Once they can get their coach. I think they just fired their coach, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So once they can get their coach, they have good young players. I mean, I like Kobe White. He's a good player. Markkanen, I think, can come back. Zach LaVine has been a star for them.
But I think
and then Wendell Carter's so young.
I think this makes them an instant contender, especially in the East. They're definitely dancing around the middle range, with two good players like that to go along with Kobe White and Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, how many hinkies do you give that one?
I'll give that one 6.5 hinkies.
All right. So here's my next one. You're gonna hate this one because it's to the Warriors. So Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle to the Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Eric Paschall, this year's first-round pick, which is the second overall pick. I don't know if you noticed that. And next year's Minnesota pick, which is protected, where if they if Minnesota doesn't fall in the bottom 5, it's automatically a top 5 pick or something like that for us or some shit like that. I don't know.
Did you say Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, I did say Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, I like the Bulls one a lot better for me as a fan. I don't.
Oh, okay.
There's just something. I know Andrew Wiggins, he did play better,
a
lot better with the Warriors. There's just still something he just has that stench on him from his time in Minnesota, and
I just think he's more versatile than Ben Simmons in terms of his offensive game. So that's why I thought maybe it would entice you a little bit, but yeah, maybe not.
But yeah, and then honestly the draft pick, I honestly don't care because I don't trust that the Sixers would even pick the right player. or they would just.
Everybody's kind of pointing at either LaMelo or Anthony Edwards from.
Do you guys really need LaMelo though?
No, we don't. Well, it depends. It really depends on who who Minnesota at 1 picks, which there's rumors that they're going to take LaMelo, but every scout is saying, and every like writer is saying that the guy in this year's draft is Anthony Edwards. He's probably not going to be a star. This draft is pretty late, but he's like a really good, well-rounded offensive player. He doesn't shoot so well from distance. He's okay, but that's definitely something that you can improve in one summer's work, like in the summer league. They think, because he does have a good mechanics-wise shot. He just needs to get better at shooting from longer distances and having that the depth perception, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. So you can add that, another nice little guard to your guys' team. You add a more versatile player, which is more or less just a not as good version as Ben Simmons, at that 3 spot. A really good backup forward in Pascal. I mean, and then you add draft picks, which is next you get a pick for next year too. I don't know. But then you lose Thibault as well.
Yeah, and I do like I think Thibault, assuming he can actually be developed, and he can be like, I think he could compete for Defensive Player of the Year. He's just like he is a monster as far as the steals and just like the blocks. I've never seen somebody like come over so many screens and like get blocks from behind on guys than Matisse Thybulle. It's crazy. I mean, he's not afraid to shoot, which is great. He doesn't hit his threes at a good enough clip yet.
And
but
you get to
I
keep
think
your boy Embiid.
That's true. I mean, if I'm comparing it to the other ones, I don't like it as much as the Bulls trade. So I think I'll have to give it only 6 hinkies. I don't hate it because you are getting the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
And
you get another.
But again, I don't trust. Yeah, but that next year, that pick's gonna be like 28. Warriors are gonna be back next year.
But no, that's Minnesota's. That's based on Minnesota's record. That's Minnesota's pick.
See, I feel like we're going on a tangent. I don't think Minnesota I don't think they pick a player. I think they make a deal and try and get Devin Booker to Minnesota. And trade the number 1 overall pick to Minnesota or to Phoenix.
That's a nice.
I don't know if it's going to work because it seems like, especially now that the Suns have, they had a nice little end of their season, 8-0 in the bubble. I don't know that they'll want to blow anything up, but I also know that Towns and Devin Booker are like best buddies, and for the Timberwolves want to keep Towns happy. So if they could bring him in, bring Devin Booker in, trade the number 1 overall pick, and the Suns can go get their star and LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that's a stretch. I would rather have Booker than LaMelo 10 times out of 10. At least Booker. All right, so here's my last one, which I think is the best trade. So this is to the Kings. So you trade Joel Embiid to the Kings. And Sacramento trades Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and this year's first-round pick.
I would do that.
That's good, right? You get 2 young stars. Buddy Hield's contracts picks up this season. I think it's like 20-something mil a year. Their pick's not great. I think it's like.
But I mean,
literally 14.
Bagley's still so young too.
A 3-point shooter. Bagley, he had some injury problems, but they like him in Sacramento. He's good. He's a solid 15-10 guy, potentially 20-10 guy when he's healthy.
Yeah. No, I like that one. I'm looking at their roster here. I mean, obviously, if I could get any player from the Kings, I'd want De'Aaron Fox on the Sixers, but the Kings aren't going to give him up.
There's no way in hell the Kings. I mean, the Kings. I mean, I would argue that like if Golden State called and was like, "We'll give you Steph Curry for De'Aaron Fox straight up," I don't even know if they do that. Like they love De'Aaron.
Well, they have their own Steph Curry. Remember they said Buddy Hield was. They thought he was as good as Steph Curry, so they've already got Steph Curry on their team.
Yeah, and apparently, there's a lot of Steph Currys around the league. Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, apparently. Trey, what's his face? Is Steph Curry?
Trae Young.
Trae Young is Steph Curry. I mean, like, there's a lot of Steph Curry.
Devin Booker.
Comparisons going around. Yeah, Devin Booker. Yeah, I think Buddy Hield just solves so many of your guys' problems on your offense, though, because he's like such a threat from the 3-point line.
Yeah, I haven't watched as much Kings games. I mean, is he a guy that can create his own shot? And I
He's
mean,
more
I
of a
do know he's
he's more
deadly
of a
from
catch and
three,
shoot guy. He's more of a catch and
catch and
shoot guy.
shoot.
Yeah, but he can create his own
But
shot too. But then
but
also
I
you
mean,
have
in this
Bagley.
scenario, you still have Simmons, so
Mm-hmm.
Simmons can get the ball to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like that. I do. I don't hate that trade. I'm gonna go. We're gonna give that one 7.5 hinkies.
Nice. Well, that was the trade segment. All right, Bobby. Any final thoughts you would like to say on the Sixers disappointing you once again?
It starts at the top. Screw Josh Harris. Sell the team. Please, he doesn't care about the Sixers. He's a business guy. He just wants to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of trickles down from there. I mean, Elton Brand just wasn't ready to be GM. Like I said, I'm ready to tear it down personally. I would start over with Embiid, Simmons, and Tybal and go from there. Realistically, that can't happen because you'd have to get rid of Tybal to get off of either Harris or Horford's contract. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just don't. It just kind of feels like the Sixers are right back where they were before they started the process.
Yeah.
And it just because that's exactly what they did. 8 years ago, they were close to the conference finals, and then they hire Hinkie and they tear it all down, and then rebuild for a few years, and then they're winning 50 games a season, and then now it just seems like they're kind of regressing back to that, like finishing the 7th, 8th seed, losing the first round, have a bad middle of the round draft pick, and I don't know.
At least you guys had you guys have stars now to build it from. Whereas like 8 years ago, you had like I remember being shocked when that team made it to the semifinals and went 7 games with the Celtics. Like they had no business being in there, and they didn't really have any stars either. Like was Andre Iguodala even on that team?
No. It was Andre Iguodala, Lou Will,
That's right.
Evan Turner.
Evan Turner. That's right.
And oh no, why am I Spencer Halls?
Oh my God.
So that was that was the year Derrick Rose got injured for the Bulls. They were the number 1 seed, and the Sixers beat them in 7 games.
Yeah.
And then they took the Celtics to 7 games.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm curious to see who they can get and bring in as a coach. I've been hearing, guys like Mark Jackson, which I don't really want Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
The guy I do want, which I keep selling myself more and more on, is Ty Lue. I think he'd be a good coach for here.
Why do you like that?
I don't know, man. It just seems like because people can say like, oh, like it was LeBron that won a championship. The coach still has to.
Yeah, but he was a pushover with that team.
But they still won the championship. You know what I mean? At the end of it, like you can be a pushover and like
hold on. They didn't win the championship. The Warriors lost that championship because Draymond Green
got
upset about
take your Warriors hat off
about LeBron walking over him.
All right, don't take your Warriors hat off here. He still had to manage. Basically, what I'm saying he had to manage the personalities in that team.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what the Sixers need. They need someone that's going to come in and keep the personalities in check and kind of be more of a hard ass than Brett Brown was. Brett Brown was a player's coach, but he was a coddler.
Yeah, I agree. You know what's one that I really like that they've been that they were vocal. They actually said that they're going to go after that I don't think will happen is Jay Wright.
It's not. People say it because
why the fuck would you go? Why would you leave Villanova? You have like the best situation ever.
He's in the greatest situation.
The best college coach of all time. Why would you leave Villanova? You're a god in Philadelphia.
Well, that's the only reason they say it is because it's the Sixers' job. Like they're like, oh, he doesn't even have to move. Like he doesn't give a shit about that.
Yeah,
he probably has the best job in college basketball.
And why would you screw that up? And let's say you don't have success with the Sixers, and you completely ruin your career.
Right? Yeah, I don't see Jay Wright coming. I don't see him. I just don't see him leaving Villanova. I don't see him coaching in the NBA. But no, yeah, I mean Tyronn Lue.
Have you guys
You know what I think would be?
have you heard the Mike D'Antoni rumors if he leaves Houston?
I haven't. I mean, they don't quite have a Mike D'Antoni team, considering they traded literally everyone that was over 6'7".
No, he would
Like,
he would need to have a guard go there. That's one of his
the
shot maker
Sixers
guards.
aren't quite built to run and gun with Al Horford and Tobias Harris.
Like
I
I feel like they would
chugging up
have
and down
to
the
make
court.
the Bradley Beal trade if he went. Like I feel like he would be like, you got to get me a guard who can make his own shot, otherwise I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know, but I throw this one out there just to throw it out there, but I think it would be fun. I mean, it'd be good for the Sixers, make some history. Just hire Becky Hammond, first female head coach.
That would be great. I would love that.
Bring her in, another Popovich disciple like Brett Brown.
Do you think Philly would embrace her?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I feel like it's a tough rap, but like if you just have to have that personality, and like I don't know, everything I've seen of her like coaching on the sidelines and stuff. I think
she's great.
I think she will be. I think she will be an NBA head coach someday.
Oh, absolutely. She'll be the first female NBA coach. I genuinely believe that. But do you would Simmons and Embiid and those guys embrace her?
I don't know. I think you only bring her in if you're.
I think Embiid would. I don't know if Simmons would though.
Yeah, I think you only bring her in if you're gonna like totally tear it down and start all the way over. And it's so funny. I saw something on Twitter the other day where they were talking about the Sixers. They go, they're like, man, the Sixers should just start over. Trade all their guys, get some young assets in there. You're gonna have to lose for a few seasons, but as long as you just stay on the right path and acquire these assets, call it something like the procedure or something. It was just funny. They're just basically making fun of the fact that we just went through all this to acquire all these assets to only get swept by the Celtics. Now they're like, hey, just tear it down, start over, man. And then the last one I'll leave you with is funny. Is they were talking about Elton Brand because everybody's like, well, it's not just Brett Brown, it's the GM. And somebody said like, well, yeah, Elton Brand's a well-respected general manager around the league. And someone comments and goes, yeah, no shit, because every trade he gets ripped off. Of course the other GMs love him. So that's where life is at right now as a 76ers fan.
That's a valid point. All right, Bobby. Well, thanks for coming on and releasing your frustration on the air on my podcast, and appreciate talking about it and being open to all these trades I just threw at you.
Yeah, thank you for the open couch for this therapy session. It felt good.
Oh, real quick, who do you like going in the U.S. Open?
Where are they playing? The U.S. Open's up at is it Bethpage this year?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just gonna go Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, dude. When you texted me that he was killing, I started watching this past weekend. He lit it up. Did you see Rory's?
9 under through 9 holes.
That literally went backwards.
Yeah,
dude, that was insane. I just couldn't believe that his chip just bounced off the wall and just went backwards. It's so great.
Yeah. No, I'll take DJ.
I like it. All right, buddy.
Who do you like? You're on Dustin Johnson?
That's a good pick. I didn't watch too much last weekend. I just kind of I watched the last day to see how DJ did. Do you see John Rahm just yell at himself super hard on the last day after 3 holes in a row? He just
I know, I missed that.
God damn it, John! You know that's gonna hit this way. It's so funny. Yeah, I don't know.
You just went full Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, bro. I think Dustin Johnson's a good pick. I like Tiger bouncing back a little bit too, though. Yeah, I don't know. I have to look some more stuff up coming in, but yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's my off the top prediction. I'll take Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, I sprung that on you. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Go Birds.
Okay. Caden Johnson coming up next. All right, everybody. So this is we're gonna go a little bit off the sports reservation for the second half of this episode today. with a topic that I think it's pretty relevant to right now because school's starting and whatnot. And I've actually been kind of curious myself as to what the whole um, going back to school situation is during a pandemic and how it kind of like ended last semester and whatnot. So for those of you who don't know, I am an alumni advisor for my old fraternity back in college, Kappa Sigma fraternity at Sac State. So still somewhat close with a lot of the guys that go to school there. You know, I try to help them out with, you know, any whatever advising as I can do. So I brought on one of my mentees, I guess you could say. I don't know. One of my students who I like supervise or whatever. Caden Johnson. What up, Caden?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
This is the first time. I'm actually pretty excited. I've been telling everybody.
Yeah. Define
Mhm.
everybody, like all your friends, even your family.
Oh, no, just everybody that you can be around during the quarantine, you know? Everybody on Xbox Live, everybody at work. That's about it.
So where are you from?
I'm from Patterson, California, out
So
by Modesto area.
middle fucking nowhere, California.
Dude,
Got it.
right off of fucking I-5. If you've ever been to Disneyland, you've been past Patterson.
And what year are you in right now?
I'm going into my 5th year last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
What's your
switched
major?
over. I switched over from business to economics, and kind of the same. That's why when I switched over. I had to do an extra year. It's got a little bit different of prerequisites. So,
What year did you switch? Like, what year did you decide to like fuck business? I think economics is more for me.
I switched 2 years ago. Well, because
So right before you really
first
got
of
into
all,
your like major classes, then, right?
yeah, because the business program at Sac State fucking sucks, and you have to be like the top of all of that shit to get in, and my grades were nowhere near close enough,
So it's like super
and
competitive and shit.
super competitive. And
Yeah.
like I went to see my advisor, and she was like, "Just do economics. It's basically the same thing."
Yeah.
So I mean, fuck it, why not? I don't have to apply for the program, so
I know a lot of
I
people who did that. I mean, like Pope. I don't know if you ever met Pope Patrick Benedict. He was an economics major. Um, I think more because he wanted to like get the broad scope of like business and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, sure. I guess it's more or less the same.
I mean, I mean, the reason I went to college in the first place is just to make my parents happy. So as long as I get the degree as easily as possible.
So you don't have like a direction, I guess, what you want to work in as and stuff like that when you get out of college.
Dude, it fucking changes every other minute, doesn't it?
I know.
Every other day I
I
want to
mean,
be something
for
else.
me, I kind of had my mind set on something in college, but I know like majority of the people, my friends in college, were that way. They're just like, "Fuck, I want to do this.
I'll tell you, when
I'm
I
not even
started my,
really doing what I went to school for anymore. I mean, I kind of am in a
what
version
did you
of
go to
it,
school
but
for?
I went to school for film theory. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to be like a director and be the art part of it, but I'm doing the business end of it now. So it's like completely it's the same, but it's different, you know?
Yeah. No, dude, I started college trying to get a degree so that I could join the military and have a higher rank. That was my ultimate goal.
And how
Until
do
I
you
figured
feel
out that
about
I
that
like
goal now?
until I figured out that I liked doing underage drinking and other expletives.
Well, let's keep it with school at first. We'll get into that definitely later.
Yeah.
So how did everything when the pandemic hit last semester in the spring? How did that all go down? Like, how did they just completely like did everything go online? Was there like kind of a learning curve for the professors online, or did they just say fuck it, like the semester's over,
Yeah,
grades are what it is?
dude, it was actually really crazy because Sac State was one of like I don't know if you know about it, but Sac State was one of the like last colleges in California to like go into like COVID mode and like
That
go into
literally
quarantine
doesn't
mode.
surprise me at all, considering where Sacramento is and the type of
Yeah,
students,
yeah,
like the type of
exactly.
like demographic they draw in.
No, I remember the last week before like it was like everything shut down. Everybody was sitting in class going, I don't think I'm gonna come anymore. I don't think I'm gonna come to class anymore. I like this is like starting to freak everybody out. And then finally they were like, okay, we're not going to do Monday, and we're going to see where it plays out. And then that Monday came, and they're like, okay, well, we're not going to do this week and the next week, and then we're going to see how that plays out. So it was really like drawn out. And finally they were like, fuck it, we're going to go into all online classes. And then that was just a whole fucking different beast on its own, because you got your different professors. You got the professors that can that start off with online classes, that know how to do it and they know from the beginning. And then you got the professors that are old fucks that are like, well, we're gonna try to figure it out our best because we have to, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest problem with the whole thing. I mean, most professors were good about it, but like, let's say like I was in a lab this year with anthropology, and like, how the fuck do you do that in an online class other than like giving us just a bunch of worksheets? And it was honestly the easiest fucking A I've ever gotten.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially anthropology, I took that too because it's a prerequisite for for general education. So it's like it's super visual. You have to like look at the bone. You have to be able to like point it out and stuff like that on a table, and you have to be able to like kind of like figure out where it goes on the body. Like I remember that. And like our one of our like several of our tests was our professor just like laid out bones on all the desks, and we just like in a station had to like identify which
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we did. I think that was our last test that we had, was one that was like look at all the bones and everything.
Yeah.
And our project for that class was supposed to be going to a zoo and doing like a whole like observation at a zoo.
Yeah.
And you know, even a couple weeks into online classes, she was like, still, you guys got to go to the zoo. You got to go to the zoo. After that, she was just like, fuck it, watch a movie that has anything to do with animals and write a report on it. So
something like March of the Penguins or some shit.
Bullshitted my way through it and wrote a terrible paper on what's the one with the apes? Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
That was the movie that you picked?
Yeah, and I wrote it
like
all.
a documentary about like the lifestyle of like animals,
Nope.
like Planet Earth or something. No, you picked a
And
fucking
guess what?
sci-fi movie.
I've never seen the movie. I watched the trailers and wrote it on the trailers.
Dude, they're actually good movies. You should have just watched them. Like, I would highly recommend.
I didn't have the fucking time for that, man.
Okay, what else were you doing?
Yeah.
You work like full time, so actually that's probably what it is too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing too. Was like moving and transitioning from like working at you know, the job I have now and the job I had then. I was working 2 jobs, and then I was working at a brewery, so they started closing down. So I started working full time to, you know, make up for like the tips that I was losing from the brewery.
Yeah.
And then so I was working like 90% of the time, and a big part of it was like, okay, now I have to balance, instead of working, you know, a few hours on the weekend and a few hours during the week to make it by, and now I have to work, you know, full time to make it by, and, you know, also go to school at the same time. So that was pretty difficult, and especially coming home after long 8-hour days of like, fuck, man, I just want to like relax, watch some Netflix, and then instead I got to go on and do, you know, a 4-page paper or some shit.
Yeah. So would you say that was your biggest adjustment with the whole situation?
That was definitely the biggest adjustment, but the best part about it is like, it was the professors were very understanding of like the whole circumstance, which I'll get into about why I'm worried a little bit more, why that worries me a little bit more about this next semester coming up. But
yeah.
It was they were very understanding of the circumstance in which like if you said like, hey, man, I've just been dealing with all these online classes, all this COVID stuff. I missed this assignment. Do you think I could have a couple more days to do it? And, you know, I used that to my best ability as much as I could to get as many assignments turned in as possible.
That's good. So when you said like that Monday, they were like, yeah, we're not going in this Monday. We're going to take this week. Was that like the Monday, just as a sports like kind of reference and I guess calendar reference? Was that like the week that like Rudy Gobert, like he tested positive, or was that like the week after?
I think that was after. If I'm gonna be honest, if I'm trying
Rudy
to put
Gobert, he got popped afterward, or they said Monday we're taking off after the Gobert incident.
I don't know specifically the Gobert incident, but I don't remember hearing of any.
I use that as like a turning point, like during that part of the year, as like that was when like shit got real. You know what I mean? So it felt like everything was like shutting down. I know me for work, my work emailed us the day after that and was like, hey, like we're not coming in anymore. We're gonna try and work from home.
Yeah, yeah.
Blah, blah,
I
blah.
don't know if that incidents in particular, but I know that definitely as soon as it was like right when you started hearing about sports players and stuff
Like Tom Hanks and stuff too.
Tom Hanks and like famous
Yeah.
people actually getting it is right when we started like the schools were all like, oh shit, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. Cool. So what did you like, how did you kind of spend your time at first and like entertain yourself? Like when you, because you obviously you got a lot of free time, right? Like kind of right when it hit. And like I'm assuming that the school year ended quite shortly after that, right? It was in May, mid-May usually when it ends.
Yeah, yeah. So it was, I think it was 2 or 3 months online of classes and or like 2.5. Um, but me, I think I had a little bit different of an experience than a lot of people in the way that like I was still working because
Yeah.
you know about my job and you know that I work with only 3 people at a time and so I didn't really have to take that time off as much as other people did until it got to a point where my boss even got to a point where he was like, okay, maybe let's take a couple weeks off and see like where this all goes. And I got a 2 full weeks off, and in that time, it was absolutely terrible. It was just it was just sitting at home, man. Like what else do you have to do other than like wait for a time, wait till it's time to start getting drunk again, you know?
So how like during those 2 weeks, how many days a week did you drink?
Oh fuck, man. During the 2 weeks I had off, when I just knew I didn't have to go to work in the morning, it was
And you didn't
probably
try to like go anywhere or take a vacation. You just hung out at home.
well, see, this was still back when COVID wasn't really, nobody was actually taking it as serious as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, as it really was, right? So we were still having people over at the house and still having,
Yeah.
still drinking and hanging out with people. And it
On
was
average, how many people would you say?
oh, dude, we'd have over like 15 people on some nights. I mean,
Okay,
it
so
was
like
still
a
like
normal like college kick it, but not like a full on party.
exactly not a full
Yeah.
party because, a lot of people were starting to go home and there was a lot of people that were like really paranoid about the situation that
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want to do it. So, yeah, there was a lot of people that wouldn't show up, but there was still just like that college, like, fuck, man, we're in the middle of the semester. We should be like hanging out and partying right now. Like,
Yeah.
we should be playing beer die in the backyard.
What was I gonna say? Okay, yeah, and like that's interesting, especially with like Drew's kind of like um makeup, for lack of a better word, his situation, his work. Yeah, his job or his business.
Yeah, and
Because
it was
like
really
so for the listeners, Caden works for another like one of my former fraternity brothers. His name's Drew. He owns like a tech business. So basically they repair like refurbished uh electronics and whatnot. And they're pretty spaced out. I've been in the warehouse and seen like, Drew's in his office, you're at one station, the other guy's at another station like 10 feet away. Like there's pretty decent social distancing going on in that business as is.
yeah, and
I
it
get
was,
it.
and honestly, the
I'm a
only
big
two
fan.
weeks we got off was in like the midst of like panic. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
everybody was at like the height of their panic for it.
Yeah. So then what was the
So
transition out of the 2 weeks? So you took 2 weeks off and then what? And then you just went back to work and you worked more for Drew or what?
yeah, yeah, it was kind of weird. Like it's I'm sure everybody got a little bit of it, but it's that depression, that like strange depression that hits you of just like, fuck, man, like I can't even leave the house even if I wanted to right now or go do anything if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So like once it finally got back to work, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go back and work as many hours as I can.
Mhm.
I can only play so much Call of Duty sitting here in my home.
It was kind of a blessing in disguise, you could argue, though, right? Because like you had been talking about wanting to work more hours there anyway. You like that job better than your brewery job, right?
Oh yeah, and it's just gonna open up so many opportunities.
Yeah.
How good does a brewery look on somebody's
Yeah. Um,
resume other than
other than just like food service and whatnot and serving, and like if you wanted to keep doing like that part-time job or whatnot. Yeah, I get it. I mean, a tech company, especially, you could kind of in theory lie about it on your resume if you wanted to in the future and be like, yeah, I work in tech. All right, for sure. So how would you say like the pandemic has changed your changed your social life?
Oh yeah, man. It definitely so I think I didn't really realize it until, do you remember there was like you were here. You came down or came up to SAC for a little bit, and it was that whole time where like it had just like everything in the state had reopened for a couple weeks of like just it was like free for all. Like it wasn't even like really that much of social distancing, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean
And
more like kind of when it first started, like obviously like things kind of shut down. So like nothing's really open except for like maybe to-go drinks a couple places. So like you're kind of starting up. The spring semester's over. It's still kind of springtime, not quite summer's in full effect. But people are like out of school. They're wanting to party. You know, they're wanting to do like pool parties and hang out and like day drink. But you know, like maybe I don't know. How was your feeling towards it? Were you just like kind of like fuck it, like let's just keep them a little bit smaller, or were you like full on like let's just fucking go for it and we'll deal with the consequences later?
I mean, I think I kind of had the same young person perspective that everybody that all people my age have, and we're like, fuck it, if I get it, I get it, and then I'm over it, you know.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of that, like, everybody's like, oh yeah, young people aren't really affected by it, young people aren't affected by it, so I think that the whole
Florida
kind of
effect.
yeah, exactly. And the whole kind of group of the people that we were hanging out with kind of all had the same mentality of, fuck it, if we get it, we get it. And, we'll all survive. We're healthy. Even though, half of us smoke fucking jewels and, drink all day long until our
He's
livers
fucking
are hurting.
smoking a jewel right now while he's doing this fucking interview. Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. What was the biggest party you say you went to during that time? Like at the beginning of like of everything, like summer's just kind of like kicking off.
Oh man,
and it's like it's real shutdown.
Okay, you'll have to remind me here. Was Super Bowl during COVID?
No.
Okay, because that was kind of just right before, right?
That was like a month before. So COVID happened like beginning/middle March. It was like right when March Madness was about to start, and then they canceled it.
Yeah. Okay, my timeline's a little
like
fucked
April,
up from it.
May was probably the worst when it was like the biggest shutdown, where it was like, oh fuck, like this is gonna be the new world we live in. June got a little bit like more open, but it was still like I came to visit late June. That should be a good time reference. So that was like that was like middle of it.
I don't think that anything stands out to me as the biggest party since COVID.
Yeah.
Or since quarantine, because it was all kind of just mundane, honestly, in the way that like we weren't having like people over and having like dance floors and stuff, and it was just it all just turned into kickbacks.
And like friends with like friends you knew or friends of friends.
Bring your own beer kind of shit and all that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one that we had like right before it was like Super Bowl, and that might have been when like we didn't really necessarily know that COVID was even around, and people were just kind of getting weirdly sick.
Yeah, it wasn't even really a thing then, I don't think.
Yeah. And after that, I think that was the last big one we had. After that, it was all just kind of small, maybe 15, 20 people max.
Yeah. And then like once things like started like kind of opening up in Sacramento, because I remember when I came to visit, that was a big reason why I came to visit. I was like, it's kind of open there. I kind of want a little bit taste of normalcy, a little like safe normalcy.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't realize that. Oh shit! Hold on. I didn't really realize that how much that it had affected me in like a social stance until like. Because I became single like right before COVID and all this quarantine shit happened.
Yeah.
So it was like I didn't realize that I wasn't like communicating and going out there and like trying to meet people, and not even just like girls or anything, like just talking to like new people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely, once everything opened back up, it was right around my birthday time. So I just like when we went out, and it was like, holy shit, like this is weird. Like I don't even know how to like talk to people. Like I can't figure out how to get to the front of the bar and get myself a drink, you know?
Like I remember, like when we went to Cupro's and we went upstairs, and the big reason why we went upstairs was like, oh, cool, we can like have a little corner to ourselves and like not be bothered. But at the same time,
That was even
we're like,
after they had, because I swear for like a week it was just open with like almost no restrictions. You
wow.
came back when they started going back like to, okay, then now you have to sit with your own party and shit.
I came back. I came back like 2 weeks after they reopened, because I remember the reason why I came back was I saw a Snapchat from one of our friends, Gary, and a couple of them, Gary and like Julian.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say their last names on here, but and I texted Drew. I'm like, is SAC like back open? Because like I just saw some Snapchats that are like people, like there's some people at the bar. He's like, yeah, it's more or less back open. Like I'm literally getting, I'm at Mimosa House having brunch with Christina and like a couple of people, and I was like, what? And that's when
Yeah,
I was like, all right,
it was
cool. I'm
really
gonna come
weird
visit
of
and
like,
find out. Like being careless and
yeah.
being like irresponsible. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find out. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's what everybody was, and that's why like the whole shit is like back to where it was. So but everybody was so eager to get back out.
Yeah.
Because I remember sitting there at work, and you know, Christina comes over and she goes, hey, all these are the places that are opening up this weekend. And I was like, places are opening up this weekend.
Yeah.
What is it? And you know, me being freshly 21, I hadn't even had like, you know, a full 6 months of being 21 yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
So I was like, man, I haven't even had a full year of being, you know, able to go to bars and shit.
Yeah.
So when she told me everything was open, I was like, fuck yeah, man, I'm gonna go to all of those.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
they were all different in the way that like some were like, okay, you know, it was just so vague in the rules. So like you go to one place and you know they're making you all sit by yourselves or whatever, and you go to the other place and people are dancing with each other. So
fuck, really? Dancing? God damn, that's irresponsible.
yeah, dude.
Back to that story. We were going to Cupro's, going upstairs, and we were like kind of put in the corner. And then remember we went to Beer Garden, which was outside, so I guess it's a little bit more like mingleable. And like we're sitting around, and it's like every other table there's people sitting there, and you sat in one of the sections where you weren't supposed to be sitting in order to keep it clear, different party. And the waiter came over and said like, hey, you got to go sit somewhere else. I remember that. And I remember being like, oh shit, like I can't believe that we didn't think about this. But at the same time, I also remember, at least for me, I remember being like, this just feels like a little bit uncomfortable. We're like, you know, we're just in a very populated area. Like I think there was like 50 people in that patio, which is like kind of a lot. And then like we went and go talk to that group of girls too, and we were like, oh, we kind of got close to them. And like I remember looking at Drew being like, dude, I don't really feel comfortable being here. Like maybe we should just go. Also, like you have a pool in your backyard. Like let's just go swim.
Yeah.
Like it almost seems like it's not worth the risk right now. But it was nice to like feel normal again and be at the bars and shit, you know. But it
did feel nice, but it almost felt like, you know, it was just like it didn't feel real a little bit. Like I don't know if you remember, but you know, there's a point where I had a few drinks in me and I was a little silly at that point and had gone and sat at it's the one you're talking about. When I went and sat at
Those
that
chicks?
table I sat with those guys.
Oh yeah.
And I was like just joking around, said, can I sit here? They're like, no. I said, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, no, you can't sit here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh shit, like I'm not even like thinking about it like COVID wise. I just thought these guys were being a fucking asshole to me, you know?
Yeah.
And then when we went to those chicks, and you know, they were a little bit younger and they were totally being like, you know, not even caring about it. But you just kind of see the different like different ways of people being conscious about it.
Yeah, totally. And like how everybody's mindset's a little bit different. So you were talking about dating a little bit earlier because I did want to ask you about that. So did you become single right before the pandemic, or was it like when the pandemic hit and a little bit after that?
So I became single in October of last year.
Okay, so last year. All right. So you were single for about 5 months. 6 months.
I wouldn't say I was fully single until 2 months before COVID started.
Okay.
It was, you know, just in and out of like, with my ex, and then in and out of with other, relationships with other people and stuff.
So what was that like? Kind of like trying to like get your grounds and like be refamiliarized with like single life and dating around like right before, like right when like it's kind of frowned upon to like go out and meet new people.
Oh man, it was so. There's a little bit of a joke that I always make, and however much trueness you want to take out of it is up to you. But it's kind of the joke of like, oh, you don't even have to take her on a date because you can't take her on a date, so you just invite her over.
But was it tough, like kind of like trying to like talk to girls and then be like, we should hang out, like come over to my house? Like I feel like that'd be kind of an uncomfortable
exactly.
situation, right?
Exactly. So it was like a lot of it was like downloading Tinder, downloading Bumble, downloading Hinge, all the three main three,
Yeah.
and being like, wow, I really like you. I wish I could take you on a date. Hopefully this whole COVID shit ends soon,
Yeah.
because right now I can't really do anything about this,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just a whole lot of conversations that led to ending up being nowhere.
How much different would you say in compared to normal like college like dating life? Probably pretty different, right? Although at the same time, you're
1,000%.
still did you use apps beforehand?
I did a little bit, but that's not what I relied on. I would go to the bars and
Or
try
go
to
to a
get a girl's
party.
number there and
Yeah.
go to a party and meet up with somebody, or even just like
Or go to a sorority
even just-
mixer or something like that and meet girls.
it was so much more of like getting to meet people that you've never met before. And then once it became like COVID, it's like, who can I hit up that I know? Because like there's not meeting any new people right now.
Yeah, it's definitely like more effort, you would say, in terms of like trying to hook up, right?
Exactly.
Um,
It was a completely different experience. It's just like it was almost funny to see like who were the people that were down to meet up and hang out, even though all this shit was going on, to just be like, hey, you want to hang out and like go get fast food and like let's go get In and Out and eat and have just like a little picnic on the back of my car or something, instead of like like
I mean, like
you try to get creative.
I live by the beach, so luckily I've kind of had like that luxury to where I've gone on a couple like dating app dates, and you just like, let's go on a walk on the beach. Let's grab a to-go beer and let's just walk on the beach, because it's like to-go beers are so acceptable when it's like open containers, like not even a law anymore, damn near. But so I always
what
like
beach
that.
do you live by?
I live by well, I mean, there's a couple beaches that I live by. I live by Dockweiler Beach, which is not really like much of like not a lot of foot traffic there. But the beach I try to go to is actually, I'm not gonna give out my spots on this podcast. I live by Dockweiler
Anyway,
Beach.
did they shut down your beaches at all or no?
They did for a little bit, but they're back open now. So it's like, I mean, when I like want to do like a date, I go to a beach that has like a nearby, like a good, like, I don't know, like village, or I guess for lack of a better word, nearby, where there's like a bar where we can go get a to-go drink and then just walk straight on the beach and go on the beach trail. And I guess you could probably do that with the river, though. I mean, the river is like a really nice walk, like by Drew's house or by like campus. Like that actually be kind of cool. Maybe you get like a drink at Stingers and then walk the river.
Yeah, and there was a point where that was like the thing to do and everybody was doing it.
Oh yeah.
And then it was kind of iffy as to, and I still don't know the like true answer about this, but like it's always been very iffy and up in the air if it's even allowed. Like a lot of people for 4th of July were like, let's go down to the river, and then like I had people telling me like, oh no, dude, so many like park rangers are gonna be out. You shouldn't be out there. They're not gonna they're gonna give you tickets for being out.
Really?
So
I've seen
it's
quite
just kind
a
of
few
been iffy.
like floats on like social media and stuff.
Yeah, and I see that's where I've heard so many people saying that it's not allowed, but I've also seen a lot of people doing it. So
yeah,
I just it's kind of up in the air, and it's not
reward.
like, I don't know if that's necessarily something that you can Google and
No,
say, hey,
definitely not.
is the river open?
Yeah. It's more like you got to show up, and if it's like just hounded with rangers, you're like, all right, cool, let's get the fuck out of here, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we did go to the river once right before 4th of July, and there was a fuck ton of people out there.
Yeah, I bet. Hell yeah. I mean, especially in the middle of July, like during like the heat wave and whatnot. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So are you? Do you mind if I ask? Are you still single now?
Yeah.
How are you going about dating now? Is it a little bit more loose or what?
It's definitely a lot more loose. It's come to a point where you kind of got to like realize that you hang out with who you can hang out with, and it's um in a weird way, it's not so much that you're like trying to date around anymore. It's just like you kind of got to be cool with like seeing whoever you can see. And I'm not gonna like come out and say that like I've been seeing anybody, but it's definitely been it's definitely been strange in the fact that like you have to make sure that that person's like also being careful about COVID. And
Yeah.
like I've hung out with a girl before that was like, oh yeah, I'm going off and doing this and I'm doing this, and I was kind of just like, I don't know if I'm comfortable seeing you anymore because I don't know
Yeah.
who you're seeing, and I don't want to like get me and my friends affected or me and my family members affected. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not like what it was in college. You can't just go to a party and like hook up with someone, like, because you just don't know. I mean, one, there are no parties, and two, like, you just don't know. Like, it's just
yeah,
not like a safe
yeah,
situation.
one night stands are out the window.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, what's your plan for school this semester? Are you enrolling this semester? Or are you taking the semester off because it's like kind of weird?
No, school starts tomorrow.
School
School
starts
starts
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Damn. All right,
Yeah,
and you're going
yeah.
back, huh? And it's gonna be all online.
Well, here's what I was getting at a little bit earlier, and I said I'd explain to you later. Is just so it's all online this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I told you that with last semester they were all very lenient with the fact that you could tell them, hey, I missed this assignment because I'm not used to taking online classes.
Yeah.
Well, this semester I'm a little worried that it might be a little bit harder to say, hey, I missed this one because I'm not used to online classes, and they're going to say, well, you had a whole half semester of it this year, you started in it this year, we've had
Yeah.
the whole thing lined up for the whole year. And it's definitely much more difficult to follow a schedule of online classes where you got to read an email rather than going into the class and somebody saying, hey, this is what you got to do and you have to have it done by Monday or bring it in by Monday.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a lot more self-responsibility of reading emails and following up with all of that shit.
I was just gonna say, I mean, but at the same time, like the professors are a lot more responsible to like if you are asking for feedback and they don't give it to you back in time, they're just as liable for you not getting the information that you need, because if they send out an email with instructions and you reply back with feedback and a question about just to clarify on the assignment, like they need to be on top of that, especially like with not being in class all day when they're just in their office and just working digitally. Like that's also on them, so
Yeah, I definitely have a personal experience in exactly what you're talking about, because there was a point last semester where I was emailing back and forth with the professor saying like, hey, how do I do this assignment, blah blah blah, it's only got a couple days left on it, like I need help. And she would take like 2 days to message back or whatever, and finally got to a point where she's just like, you're 4 days late on it. And I'm like, hey, well, you only reply to me every other day or whatever, and it's hard to like figure this out. So I'm really hoping that with this next semester that it can that everybody, not only the students but also the teachers, have gotten their shit together a little bit with trying to figure out how their class schedule is going to be working.
dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like I had so many times in college, it wasn't really till I got to like my major classes where it's like you could tell that one, they don't have as many students, and two, so it's a little bit easier, and two, like because it's a major class, because it's like for the program, and your success helps the success of the program for the future and maybe get more funding and whatnot, your success past college, that I got more responses towards things like that. Like I had so many like general ed professors where it's like you send them an email, sometimes they don't even reply back. Or when they do, it's only during their office hours, and you notice because you see when their office hours are, and you notice like, oh, it seems like he only answers emails during his office hours. Kind of convenient. Or like you go into his office hours to ask him a question because you can't get a hold of him on email, and like half the time they're not even there for half their office hours. It's like, oh, I had to leave early. Or like you want to go in and like turn in an assignment. And it's just like all these things where like these professors, and it's mostly older professors. These older professors, like they got to be on top of it. Like my major classes were a lot better. Like they were very responsive. I even had a couple of their like phone numbers I could just like talk to. That's just kind of how major classes are. You grow closer bond to those professors because you have multiple classes with them and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, so for those teachers out there, I know your job is tough, but you got to be more responsive to help these students out too. Like that's just my 2 cents.
And your whole thing with talking about changing office hours and shit, it's funny because you'll still see it, the office hours changing over COVID, and it's like, well, you're not really doing shit. You can't make it to your own office hours. You're sitting in your living room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And but I will say that the one thing that's been really, really helpful is, at least with all my professors, I know that some other professors aren't doing it this way, but with all my professors so far, it's been, you don't need to be in the class at the time of the class. They're going to record the whole thing and you can watch it at any point. So
cool.
it's really helpful. They're saying like, oh, we know that you have, work to take care of or whatever. Mm-hmm. I had even a professor last year that wouldn't upload his classes until 10:30 at night. And he said, just watch them the next day or watch them at that time if you want.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty lenient and whatnot and stuff too.
Which on the other hand, it's real nice, but on the other hand, it's like, should I be honest with you and tell you how many of those classes I actually ended up watching? Because it wasn't a lot.
But now it's on you, man. You gotta like be responsible and find time to do that. It's just kind of a trade-off situation now.
Yeah, and
I feel like it's easier to find time throughout your day though when you can watch it at any time you want.
There's a lot of college students that you're giving responsibility to. A lot of 19 through 21-year-olds that you're giving responsibility to go out there and listen to their own classes when there's a whole Google Sheets thing with all the answers to the tests that I can just Google instead of having to pay attention to every single lecture.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, that's kind of on them if that's how they want to spend their tens of thousands of dollars on college, and they want to learn nothing from their degree, and then they want to go in the job market and not qualify for any fucking job and be unemployable. I'm just saying.
We'll just put it this way.
In my opinion, that's a college experience, like as a whole. Like you have to, it is what it is, like for you, and you have to take advantage of the experience. So if you want to learn and you want to like be successful, then you have to be the one who like puts in the effort.
There's a whole different.
You're spending money.
It's just a whole different.
And you're not required to be there. You're spending money to be there.
Exactly, but it's a whole different entity when you're, when you're required to go to class and you have to show up. And like, or else your grade's going to be affected or whatever. And, or even if your grade's not going to be affected, just like there is the class period, you have more of like feel more of a responsibility to go in rather than when they say, this is going to be recorded and you can watch it whenever. And then you're like, okay, I'll watch it, but I'll watch it on my own time. And then the test comes and you're like, shit, I haven't watched, 2 or 3 of the lectures by now. I can Google the answers and get an A and pass and, not waste any more money on taking this class again next semester. Or what are you going to guess?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's a different adjustment. Like we've all been going to school our whole lives. It's like we learn better in that environment. It's going to be a different environment for us to learn, which is why I wanted to bring you on this podcast and talk to you about it, because you guys are the generation that got fucked over, that has to figure out how to make this work. And really, it's important for you guys a learning experience for all of humanity in terms of how to improve this experience moving forward for the future generations. You know what I mean? So in theory, you kind of want that trial and error because you see what works and you see what doesn't.
Yeah. And there's ways to get around it and everything. There's ways to like, make sure that the students are doing their work, but it's the laziness of professors mixed with the laziness of the students. And I'm not calling any, particular professor lazy, and I'm not calling any particular student lazy. It fluctuates between the population, but it it allows you to be a lot more lazy, and it
Yeah.
allows you to get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
And
You're more
it's just a lot easy.
self-responsible,
It's just a lot easier.
Yeah. Do you know anybody who you don't say who they are, but do you know anybody who's taken the semester off because of the COVID experience that just don't want to deal with it?
I don't know anybody specifically, but
Okay.
I could
I was gonna ask you how many you think you know.
I don't know anybody specifically, but I know a lot of people that have just said, it's all online. Fuck it. I'm not gonna pay rent here this year. I'm gonna go home and live at home and take classes online.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of people that we know up here just have completely moved out of the city, hours away. So it makes it a lot easier for these people to go to school. So I think you would almost think that a lot of people were dropping out, but I think you would see actually probably a higher attendance than regular right now, because it's so easy to go to school and be out of, not even be there in the city.
At the same time, I don't blame them, like saving money, but like at some point this is gonna be over, and like where are you gonna want to be? And then those people are gonna be crashing on your couch, Caden. I guarantee you right now.
Yeah. See, that's the whole thing. I have this semester and one more semester left, and now I'm working full time. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the perfect reality for me would be that this whole shutdown lasts until like maybe a couple months right before I graduate, so that I can walk and do all that, but I can also still work full time throughout most of my,
Save
next
some money
semester.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it. Just quick things about the frat. So what's that experience been like? A lot different? You guys go to meetings on Zoom and stuff, right?
Like you said, we're like the first generation to really have to like deal with this. So we've had a really hard time of trying to figure out what it is we need to do and how we need to go about it. We've had a couple online Zoom meetings.
I know Nationals doesn't really know either, and they haven't really helped much.
Yeah, I mean, like we couldn't even, do a lot of we couldn't do a lot of like the things that we do every year last year. So it's just like we have a lot of questions, and a lot of things are up in the air, and we've tried to figure it out, through you and through some of the older guys of like what we should do, and even they don't know. So it's like we don't know either,
like, man. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, holy shit, like what do we do? And we don't get answers from the people that usually give us answers. So we're just kind of it all really fastly came to a dead halt, and it's starting to pick back up now. I know, like it's really funny, but we're planning a rush event this semester with it's going to be COVID Call of Duty. We're all going to play Call of Duty with some rush kids, and we're going to try to rush that way.
That's going to be, I mean, how are you guys going to like do that? Because you can't be on campus. Like, how are you going to meet new kids? Or is there going to be like advertisement and like dorm move-in, or like is there even dorm move-in? Like, it's so crazy.
I don't even know if there's dorm move-in. It's I don't have last semester was my last time doing anything with Rush, so I don't have any idea of like how they're going about finding new people.
Yeah.
And we haven't really necessarily been filled in on it completely. But we're not going to have a large Rush class this year, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
I don't think anyone would expect it in the first place.
Yeah. But I think once it all ends, you're going to see one of the biggest Rush classes that you've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
100%. If not the biggest. Yeah, from all the kids that think about being a senior out of that just graduated high school, and you're about to come to college, and you've always wanted to join a fraternity, and fuck, man, you got to wait another year, 2 years. You don't know. Nobody
like, not
knows
even
right
like
now.
Even if you want to go to fraternity, like you just wanted to go party and you wanted to like fucking like rage your face off, and you wanted to like be free, be an adult, like for the first time in your life, and you can't do that. Like, let's say that like fingers crossed, there's a vaccine in like December, and that you guys are going in the spring semester where it's like people are vaccinated, like we're ready to go, everything's back to normal. Like they're gonna fucking rage their face off, and they're gonna want to go out, and they're gonna want to have a good time. Like, yeah, they're gonna be looking like guys who would never even thought twice about frat life are gonna be looking. They're desperate to get into frat life because they're gonna want to fucking want to make up for what they missed out on in the fall semester.
Yeah. And I think that's why, and honestly, those type of people that are desperate to get into frat life like that are the reason that we're still going to have some this year and some, this semester and next semester. And there's always going to be, if you build it, they'll come. So there's always going to be somebody that's going to be there. Whether or not it's going to be, the amount of people we want or need is, up in the air. So we'll see how it works out. We're going to try to do our best and attend as many, online rush events as we possibly can. It's like you said, the big problem, once we get them there, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But getting them there is the problem.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we close this up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I know that you don't do video for this podcast, right?
Don't do video for this podcast.
Don't do a video. You are looking very handsome, I must say.
Thank you. With my fucking haircut and my not haircut but hair and my cut off t-shirt. Sweet.
Yeah, well, that's just my little mini crush I have on you.
Oh God. All right.
You're gonna come do my podcast now, aren't you?
If you ever decide to launch it, yeah. All right. Well, good luck this semester. Thanks for coming on and talking about it. I know it's consuming your whole life, and I know it's not easy to kind of figure out, but I think it's important that the public knows kind of what's going on and gets a taste of it. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Also talk to you soon then. Later, dude.
All right, buddy. Love you.
Peace.
Big thanks to Bobby Brabson for coming on and venting about his Philadelphia 76ers. Thank you again to Caden Johnson for coming on as well and sharing his experience, his college experience, letting some of the non-college world kind of get a glimpse of what it's like dealing with this pandemic. So thank you again to both of you guys. All right, so tune in next week. I'll have more sports for you, and thank you for listening, and please subscribe. I'm on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it, I am there. Talk to you next week.